Video. And for today, I have a nice deck profile for you guys. I wanted to highlight the deck Utopah SKs. SK stands for Shape Knights, for those who don't know. And I think this is a really cool build that I wanted to just highlight for you guys, just to give you guys a quick video of a deck that I've been having my eyes on recently because I think it's super, super fun to play. I think there's a lot of potential. And for those who love Syndian, I think this is the best Syndian variant that's out right now. And I don't know if you guys have watched my previous tier list, but I've ranked this very, very high. High tier two, I believe, is what I gave it. Um, and I'll talk a little bit more about why I placed it there as we go through the video. But yeah, I thought this would be something cool to just drop on you guys and, just give this sample build here. So I got this build from my friend Luig, who's in the Discord server. Shout out to him. This deck is super, super cool. Fun fact, I actually, once the Utopia Shape Knight Planetary Collection, Sinian Planetary Collection came out with the Shape Knights release, um, I explored a build like this, but I really think Luig's build is super, super clean and optimized. He has a couple of like cards that I didn't really consider that work really, really well in the deck. So without further ado, let's hop in. All right, so starting from the very top, we have Stylius of Syndian. Stylius is super, super nice in this deck, thanks to the Utopia Moon, which we're going to get to very, very soon. As a matter of fact, maybe it makes a lot of sense to start with the moon, as the moon is the core driver of the deck, and it kind of like brings the whole strategy together. Sorry about that. So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about this. Utopia, the Syndian moon. It says attach only to the planet Syndian. Once per turn, you can free play one-handed Syndian creature, which has fewer stars than one zoned Syndian creature. The free play creature is also unaffected by activators until the end of the turn. Yep, that's correct. Yes, until the end of the turn, you cannot use an activator on whatever Syndian creature that you free summoned. And so I think this is like absolutely nuts. The cool thing too about the moon is that it is not. If you have two moons active, then you can use it twice. So if I have three available zones, one Syndian creature, I can use the moon twice to get two more creatures for free, as long as they are less than the biggest creature that I have. And I think that's like super, super dope. And so, like I said, this really pairs well with Stylius because one of the drawbacks of Chaos Beasts is that they're so expensive, right? Because they cost 9 stars. And so if you're paying 9 stars and you get this out, now you're unlocking the entire rest of your deck. That's Syndian, of course. Ignore these guys. But any of your other Syndian creatures are like instantly live and can be free played, right? Because it's the highest creature count that you have. So super, super cool. Also, Stylius's secondary ability that when it's killed, being able to free play one of these guys, or even get Hexator back is like super, super nice. So let's go into Young Galleon. Young Galleon says once per turn, you can reveal the top two cards of your galaxy. Add one revealed Syndian creature to your hand and return the other card or cards to the bottom of your galaxy. A lot of times, Young Galleon is actually your starter. And so this deck plays a very, very differently, whereas like you almost want to lead with your big guys, whereas a lot of other conventional decks focus on like playing the smaller guys to build up into the bigger guys. But this deck kind of plays it almost in reverse. So a lot of times when you start off on Young Galleon, that's a really great card because you want to slap it down and you run so many Syndian cards that pretty much I forgot the percentage, but pretty much every time you activate its ability, you're gonna get a Syndian card off the top. So like off the top two. And so it's like a +1, like once per turn, and it's super, super bulky. 340 health is nothing to sneeze at, and 420 power can definitely be devastating and catch your opponent off guard. So I love this card in this deck. Next is Zenchi the Assigner. Once per turn, you can kill one-handed creature to kill one zoned resource or attachment, or if you kill a handed Syndian creature, then you can kill a zone creature instead. So it's a 1-for-1 pop. Really love Zenchi. Once again, it also can come down as a free play. So now you have three bigger targets than Zenchi that can allow it to come down for free. And then you drop a Syndian creature from your hand, and now you're sniping a card and then converting it right into damage, usually being able to attack to face within that same turn. It's also super, super nice against any pesky floodgate type of resource, permanent resources, things like Warp World Territory or Deep Space Checkpoint, any of those like funny cards or it's not very common, but like Ice Elixir, it can really help you snipe those different things and keep your strategy going. So I really love Zenchi in this deck as well. Pelfam, not much to say about Pelfam. Super good staple. If you can run it, you should run it. And I think every deck tries to squeeze it in if possible. Next up is Shape 9 Hexator. Shout out to Hexator for coming off the ban list from being limited to now it's fully unlimited. So you can run 2 copies of it, which is super, super nice because Cindian definitely wants some good heavy hitters to supplement the defensive strategy. You want some offense to go with it, and Hexator is an excellent thing to use. They're usually free playing off of Lionel whenever possible. Very rarely do you cosplay this, and even with the Utopah now, you have an opportunity to drop this guy down a lot sooner. What's also cool is that unfortunately, since the arena is at 1 copy instead of 2, it doesn't happen as often. But when you do have the arena set up, Hexator becomes an 8-star creature. So now it goes up here. And so anything below 8 stars now becomes live and you can free play it with the moon. So you see how this strategy starts to really, really synergize as you get those big star creatures on the board. Something I did not mention with Zenchi is that it also supports your graveyard setup because typically you want Orbov or Shape Knight Lionel in your grave as they can come back defensively and free play Orbov blocking an attack, and then Lionel coming back to help you get fodder for your Hexator or use any body blocking if you need it. Next up is Tonics. Really, really love Tonics. I explored this card as well. I love that he's running it at 2 copies. I think it's definitely worth running at 2 copies. It's the perfect like mid-range creature for this build. It says after this card attacks or is attacked by another creature, it permanently gains 40 power and health. And so every time that it's attacking, um, and destroying a creature, or if someone crashes into it, which usually doesn't happen, then it gains 40 power and health, right? So after just one attack, it's already a 200 and 260 health creature. So that's like nuts because a lot of decks have to respect 260 health. And then with the Cindian planet forcing you to attack the biggest creature first, the one with the highest health, usually Tonics either absorbs removal that they wanted to use for your bigger creatures, or they're having to commit a lot just to clear this guy off the board. So really love how Tonics works in this deck. Next up, Shape Knight Scorn. If it was at 2 copies, you would definitely run 2, but it's only at 1. Comes down and you can kill a zone creature with stars equal to or lower to the combined stars of all Shape Knight creatures on the field. Very good in the mirror match as well because it counts the um, Shape Knights on both sides of the board. So it has a lot of play in the mirror match. Similarly, Utopia is really nice in the mirror match because if you didn't notice, it says um, once per turn, you can free play one-handed Cindian creature, which has fewer stars than one zoned Cindian creature. So it could be on either player's field. It doesn't have to be your own Cindian creature. So just something to think about if you are considering running this deck. You have a lot of built-in insulation against the mirror match, and something I feel like is worth noting. Next up is Trongulon. Trongulon is your starter for your Shape Knights, where you usually want to send Lionel to the grave and then get either Scorn or Hexator to your hand. It is limited on the ban list, but it's just always great when you draw it and you're able to just go right into these guys. Otherwise, it's just, a small Cindian attacker. Next, Kaleidoscope Warriors, very good card in my opinion because it gives you a lot of hand knowledge. After it attacks, and this is to the face, or if it battles into a creature, you're able to look at their hand and snipe an attachment card. In this particular format, I think this is nice too because attachment cards have gained a lot more play. As things like for Cell Sign is always a staple, but KO has become a lot more popular this format as people want to respect those high health creatures. And so being able to potentially snipe that is nice, but even on top of that, seeing their hand and playing around it is what's really valuable. Next up is Zamrazed. Zamrazed is essentially a staple as you want something cheap that can help you get some extra zones for free. and it's no reason not to run it if you can fit it in. Next up is Spirit Spear. Now, shout out to Luig because this was a creature I did not consider when I was first playing this type of deck. And Spirit Spear is actually more nuts than I thought. So the ability reads, when another creature is cosplayed, so that's either yours or your opponent's, this creature permanently gains 20 power and health for each star that that creature has. Now it's starting off pretty low, and you may be thinking like, okay, well, how bad could this really get? Okay, let's take for example, you already have Spear, and you play a Young Galleon. That is 8 times 20. That's an extra 160 power and health that you just added to Spear. So just by summoning your own creature, now it becomes 200, 200. Now this is where it gets fun. That's on your turn, and then now on your opponent's turn, if they play an 8-star creature, you add another 160, 160 to Spear. So now, just in a matter of two creature summons, you've already gone up to 360 power, 360 health that quickly. Um, and that really starts to add up. And then the funny thing about this is that at some point, Spear becomes bigger than the creature that was standing next to it. So now they have to swing into Spear. And it protects your other strategy. So if it's standing next to Young Galleon, which I think is one of the better partners next to it, now Young Galleon can keep using its look at the top two cards and add a sending creature to your hand effect. And your opponent has to deal with this guy when they should be trying to deal with this guy. Super, super cool. Next up is Angel Squads. Angel Squads is absolutely nuts in this deck, in my opinion, as it has so many different targets that it can get. After it's killed by an opponent's attack, you add one galaxy creature to your hand that comes from your planet and has 120 or less power. You have Sphere, Orbalv, and Lionel, all of which are great targets that you want to have in your hand for whatever strategy that you're looking for. If you want to get your Shape Knight set up, you grab Lionel. If you want a little bit more defensive insulation, you get Orboff to set up for Zenshi or Divine Doom. If you're ready to kind of put more pressure on your opponent, then you grab Spirit. So you see how it all kind of works together. So that's it for the creature package. As far as the creatures are concerned, I really would not change anything. I can't think of anything else I would change. Obviously, there are some creatures on the ban list that would be really, really nice with this build. For example, Light Beam Rider and Beast of the Conjurers, but they're banned for obvious reasons because they're super, super good. But I like the creature package that's currently here. Next up is Eternity Amulet. It says when the attached creature attacks and kills an opponent's creature, it gains the killed creature's power and health. So it's just a way for your creature to just get super, super bulky. I like it in this deck because like your opponent is forced to deal with your high health stuff just based on how the planet functions, right? And so making anything bigger and more valuable is always going to be a benefit. And you have high enough power where you can pretty much swing over a lot of stuff and just get insane value. And I think this is really cool kind of in the late game as well. After you've already forced your opponent to use different forms of removal like Galaxy Crash, For Sale Sign, Beast of the Black Hole, being able to slam this down on one of your high health creatures or just something mid range that gets really, really big, like over 500 health, can really just like shut an opponent out of the game and just really win you games outright. So I really love the one copy of Eternity Amulet here. Of all the cards in the deck, it's probably the most cuttable, as you could interchange it for a lot of different things. I mean, this could be a KO, this could be another activator, but I definitely understand why it's ran in this deck, and I think it's a really good option. For Sale Sign is virtually a staple. Don't need to talk much about it. Already talked about Arena. Galaxy Crash, also a staple. And next up is Divine Doom and Planetary Field and Beast of the Black Hole. One thing I want to mention about Sinian specifically is, in my opinion, they have the best removal package, as they're essentially able to run 3 copies of Galaxy Crash. Like this board wipes, and you can run it at 2 copies, and this board wipes, and it's a staple. So it's like they're able just blow through a lot of different boards, and so that's why you're probably not as concerned about having like a KO, for example. But there's not many decks that can just hold a board against a Ascendian package like this. So yeah, that's it for the main deck. Obviously, you run the Scindian Planet. Now, next, as a bonus, Louis just gave me this list, but I thought something that would be really nice would be to give a what if I brought this to a tournament type of vibe and what my sideboard would look like. So let's go down to my sideboard. If I were to take this to a tournament tomorrow, this is the sideboard package that I would run with. Um, so as I mentioned earlier, I do believe this deck is like tier two. And the thing that's holding it back from tier one is that it has a really strong silver bullet that snipes a lot of your Scindian creatures in the form of Anti-Justice Sword, which is the Sindel variant, the Sindel counterpart to this guy. And the Anti-Justice Sword is it only costs 3 stars. It's splashable in pretty much every deck, and Sindel is probably the best deck in the format right now. So you're already going into it kind of behind the eight ball, trying to beat one of the best decks that's probably going to be represented in your tournament. And so I built the sideboard to like very, very much so respect that matchup. And then it also has a semi rough matchup against Polysium. Although Polysium has a lot of other issues to figure out as far as like its own consistency, things like that. Might do a deck profile on Polysium and give my take. Um, but yeah, that's just kind of what I think right now. And so those are the two main matchups that you want to think about. So first up, I put 2 copies of Seal of Eternity. I just want to double down on the chances of them reviving using Skelligas. Um, the reason you don't want to run Erratic Void is because Erratic Void would not stop them from bringing back the Justice Sword. And so you're better off trying to hit them on the gas interaction. That's the best interaction to try to hit them, either when they try to revive anything or when they use things like Bone Ladder or Forces of Justice to add Skelligas back to their hand. So Seal of Eternity would give you the best insulation game 2 and game 3, and just kind of help you out. Because if they keep bringing back Sword, and now the Sindel deck gets up to like 6 or 7 different revives, you can really be in trouble. Next, I thought it would be nice to splash in a Justice Shield of your own. Um, as just putting this on your board can kind of slow them down because um, no Sindel creature can attack into it. So they're going to be forced to use some type of removal when they already have a whole bunch of other options that they want to save their removal for. So you just splash in another awkward target for them. And if I were to cut something for that, I would probably just cut like once Kaleidoscope Warriors, for example, and now you have something that's going to soak up removal. And also, 190 health is very, very awkward for them to swing over because they can't use any Sindel creatures, and then often their other creatures are low health. I mean, low power, like Droplet Squash, Thorngaborg, Zamrazed. And so, if they don't have enough creatures that respect that 190 and also are not Sindel, you can almost kind of use the same strategy against them and block them out of the game with a wall type creature. What's also awkward too is that when you run this in your deck, and it is main deck worthy if you really want to bolster your matchup against Sindel. But the thing about it is that if you put it next to a creature that's higher health, now it really becomes a threat because you don't care about its power. Whenever it swings into a Sindel creature, it's automatically going to be destroyed. And so you can swing into anything other than the Justice Sword, and you're going to trade very, very favorably. And they still have to figure out how they're going to kill your higher health stuff that's standing next to it. Next up, I put Avalanche Overlord. This is for your Polysium matchup. When you slap it down, it kills all zone creatures with 400 or more power. Obviously, you want to be careful as you have a lot of different things, including Hexator, that can be over 400 power. So you got to use it strategically. You don't want to just slap it down because you might accidentally blow up your own card. So think about that. Dark Market Alchemist is actually very interesting to me because this is your way to respect the barrel matchup and also respect the mirror at the same time. So I figured it was like a high value, good creature to put in the sideboard. And it says when you cosplay this creature, you can kill one zone creature that has higher power and or health than its original power and or health. And so this is cool because it can snipe things like Hexator. I think that's how that works because um, the power and health would be different. So you can snipe that. And then yeah, so I think it's just mainly for like shape knights. Also, if they use the Eternity amulet, that could be a problem. I'm trying to think if it comes up anywhere. Oh, against Spear, you can snipe their Spear that way too. So I thought it was just kind of cool. It has some utility in the mirror, but mainly against all barrel creatures that flip their power and health, this card comes up. So if they have the Barrel Queen and they flip it from 230, 400 to 400, 230, you're able to snipe it instantly. So just something that trades favorably and it hits for 3 points, and I think that's really nice. And then Super Flooper because it just respects the Gaius matchup. Not much to say there. But yeah, don't want to take this too much longer. Just want to give you guys a cool profile. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know how you feel about the deck. Are you excited for Syndian? Do you think they have some potential? Um, and yeah, what other cards would you add or change? But yeah, this is Chrono Knight, and catch you guys on the next one. Peace.